For 3 years, I believed I was his wife, until I discovered he was still married to another woman. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 36 years old, and 3 days ago, the man I thought I'd been married to for 3 years finally showed me exactly who he was. The problem was, I'd already figured it out. Ethan Carter was 34, and until then, I thought I knew almost everything about him. We'd been together for 5 years and married for 3, or at least that was what I believed. We met through mutual friends at a summer barbecue. Ethan was charming without seeming like he was trying. He had a good job in pharmaceutical sales, talked about how important family was to him, and said he wanted children once his career settled down. Nothing about him seemed complicated. That was probably what I loved most. After a year together, we got engaged. A year later, we had a small wedding surrounded by friends and family. For 3 years afterward, our life was almost painfully ordinary. Then, 6 months ago, a letter arrived. It had our address and Ethan's first name, but the last name wasn't Carter. I held it up when he came into the kitchen. "Do you know someone named Ethan Mercer?" He paused for barely a second before shrugging. "Probably junk mail. It has our address. Companies mix up databases all the time." Hein took it from me, tore it in half and dropped it into the trash. I thought it was strange, but I trusted my husband, so I let it go. Then another letter arrived. Same name, Ethan Mercer. This one looked official. Ethan threw that one away too. Then came a collection notice, followed by something from a courthouse in another state. Every time, Ethan had an explanation. Wrong person. Old database. Identity mix-up. Somebody probably entered the wrong address. Eventually, I stopped asking. I started paying attention. I work in insurance. Public records, claims histories, and background information aren't mysterious things to me. One night while Ethan was away for work, I searched the name. I expected nothing. Instead, I found a marriage certificate. Ethan Mercer, Olivia Hayes. The wedding had taken place years before Ethan met me. Finding out he'd been married before hurt because he had never mentioned it, but a previous marriage wasn't the real problem. The problem was what I couldn't find. A divorce. I searched different databases, counties, and variations of his name. Nothing. Then I found a lawsuit. Olivia was trying to resolve roughly $40,000 in debt accumulated during their marriage, including medical expenses and other obligations tied to both names. That explained the collection letters. It didn't explain why Ethan had spent 5 years pretending none of it existed. I should have confronted him immediately. Instead, I kept digging. Every answer made the man I'd married less recognizable. The master's degree he told me about didn't exist. He hadn't even finished his undergraduate degree. 2 previous sales positions he'd described as career moves had actually ended after accusations that he falsified sales numbers. Even his relationship with his family wasn't what he'd described. Years earlier, there had been a serious falling out involving money missing from his mother's account. I sat alone in my office staring at a marriage certificate, court filings, debt notices, and employment records that contradicted almost everything Ethan had told me about his past. The worst part wasn't discovering that he had lied. It was realizing I couldn't tell where the lies stopped. About 6 weeks ago, I finally confronted him. I printed the marriage certificate and placed it on the kitchen counter. "Were you married before me?" Ethan studied the page, then gave a short laugh. "That's ancient history. So yes, it doesn't matter now." "You were married, Ethan. And you never told me." His expression hardened. "Why are you digging through my past?" "Because court documents keep arriving at our house. Don't you trust me?" I stared at him. "You're asking me that while I'm holding a marriage certificate you hid from me?" That was when he changed tactics. "Women like you always say you want honesty until a man actually has a complicated past. This isn't about you having a past." "Sure, sounds like it. I don't care that you were married. I care that you lied about it." "Well, I'm sorry I'm not perfect, Claire. I never asked you to be perfect. No, you just expect me to hand you every mistake I've ever made so you can decide whether I'm good enough." For a few seconds, he almost made me question myself. Then I remembered the missing divorce record. "Are you legally divorced from Olivia?" Ethan went silent. It lasted only a couple of seconds, but that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. He pushed his chair back. "I don't want to talk about this anymore." That night, while he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and accepted something I hadn't wanted to admit. I couldn't rely on Ethan to tell me the truth. The next morning, I called an attorney. I documented what I had found, separated anything financially vulnerable, and moved important documents to a secure place. With my attorney's help, I began preparing to end whatever legal relationship Ethan and I actually had. I didn't tell him. Part of me still hoped he would come clean on his own. I had plenty of opportunities. He never did. Then 3 days ago, Ethan came home from another work trip. I had reasons to suspect he'd actually gone to deal with Olivia and the lawsuit, but I didn't accuse him. How was the trip? He dropped his bag beside the stairs. Fine. How did the meetings go? Fine, Claire. I waited. He frowned. What? Nothing. I'm asking about your day. You're always suspicious now. I'm asking how your trip went. No, you're interrogating me. Maybe I wouldn't be suspicious if you'd started being honest. His face tightened. Then he said the sentence I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. If you can't handle my past, maybe you're not woman enough for my present. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then I smiled. You're right about one thing. I went into my office and returned with the folder. Ethan looked down. What is this? The papers my attorney prepared. He opened them. His eyes moved across the first page, then the second. 5 weeks? Yeah. You prepared these 5 weeks ago? Yes. But that was before tonight. I know. Before this argument. I know. Understanding slowly reached his face. How long have you known? About Olivia? 2 months. His mouth opened. About the debt? Hein said nothing. About your education? His face went pale. Claire? About the jobs you were fired from? Let me explain. About your mother's money? Stop. And about the fact that I can't find any evidence you ever legally divorced Olivia. That finally silenced him. You've been investigating me. I've been finding out who I married. You planned this. I prepared for it. While pretending everything was normal? No, while giving you chances to tell me the truth. His anger faded. I can explain all of it. You had 5 years. I was scared. You had 5 years, Ethan. I thought you'd leave me. I glanced at the folder between us. And lying prevented that how? He covered his face with both hands. Please. I had imagined this confrontation many times. I thought I would scream or cry. Mostly, I felt tired. You didn't lose me because you had a complicated past. He raised his head. You lost me because every time the truth reached our front door, you threw it in the trash. Then I said what I had been afraid to say aloud. And if you're still legally married to Olivia, we have a much bigger problem than divorce. His expression changed immediately. I picked up my keys. Where are you going? Hotel. You're leaving me here? For tonight. What am I supposed to do? I opened the door. Tell the truth. Then I left. By the time I reached the hotel, Ethan had called 11 times. By midnight, 23. By morning, 39. I answered none of them. 5 weeks earlier, my attorney had warned me that once Ethan realized I knew everything, desperation could replace charm very quickly. She was right. The first 3 days after I left, Ethan apologized constantly. He said he had panicked because he loved me and feared I would leave if I knew the truth. Then came the promises. I would go to therapy, settle the debts, contact Olivia, and finally complete the divorce. He would answer every question and never hide anything again. I saved every message because my attorney told me to, but I didn't reply. By the 3rd day, Ethan realized begging wasn't working. His tone changed. You're being cruel, Claire. I deserve a chance to explain this face to face. 5 years together and you won't even hear me out? Then came another message. A real wife wouldn't abandon her husband when he's struggling. Apparently, I had gone from being not woman enough to being a bad wife in less than 72 hours. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Her response was simple. Don't engage. Save everything. So I did. On the 4th day, Ethan changed tactics again. His family came to my office. I was reviewing a claim when reception called. Claire, there are 2 women downstairs asking for you. Names? One says she's Ethan's mother. The other says she's his sister. I closed my eyes. They're refusing to leave, the receptionist added. I went downstairs and found Diane Carter standing near the security desk with Ethan's older sister, Vanessa. Diane looked like she had been crying. Vanessa looked angry. Claire, Diane hurried toward me. Please, we need to talk. This isn't the place. Then answer Ethan's calls. I've been advised not to communicate with him directly. Vanessa folded her arms. You really have a lawyer handling conversations with your own husband? I have a lawyer handling a legal separation involving a man who may still be married to another woman. Diane flinched. Vanessa didn't. You're making it sound worse than it is. How exactly would you make that sound better? It was a paperwork issue. Ethan thought the divorce had been handled. Then, where are the divorce papers? Neither woman answered. Why did he never tell me Olivia existed? Diane stepped closer. His first marriage was terrible, Claire. He didn't like talking about it. That was new. In 5 years, Ethan had never mentioned a painful marriage. I had never mentioned a marriage at all. If it was difficult, I can understand why discussing it would be hard. I can't understand pretending it never happened. How is protecting himself, Diane said. From me? From being judged. Vanessa cut in. Men get judged for their past too. Ethan knew you'd look at him differently. I look at him differently because he lied. I made mistakes. A previous marriage can be a mistake. Hiding it for 5 years is a decision. Vanessa's expression hardened. You made vows. Was Ethan legally free to make those vows to me? Silence. Diane looked away. I had my answer. Did you know about the debt? Diane hesitated. Some of it. Did you know he lied about his education? Vanessa frowned. What are you talking about? He told me he had a master's degree. He didn't finish his undergraduate degree. He also told me he left 2 previous jobs voluntarily. Records indicate he was fired after problems with his sales numbers. Vanessa glanced at her mother. Then I asked the question I had been saving. And the money Ethan took from you? Diane went still. Vanessa's anger vanished. You know about that? No, Ethan never told me. I found out. Diane lowered her eyes. That was enough. This wasn't one secret Ethan had been too ashamed to share. It was a pattern. Diane tried once more. He loves you. Maybe he does. Then give him another chance. I gave him 5 years to tell me who he was. Vanessa shook her head. That's not fair. What isn't fair is finding out after 3 years of marriage that the man sleeping beside me may already have a wife. A security guard glanced toward us. I lowered my voice. Please don't come to my workplace again. Diane started crying. Vanessa put an arm around her. You're going to regret being this cold. Maybe, but I'd regret staying with someone I can't trust more. Security escorted them out. My manager called me into his office 20 minutes later. I expected questions, but he only asked whether I needed additional security precautions. I apologized for the disruption. You didn't bring it here, he said. They did. If anyone else shows up, tell us immediately. That was the first moment all week when I felt like I could breathe. It didn't last. By the 5th day, Ethan had taken his version of the story online. Mia, one of my oldest friends, sent me screenshots. Ethan had written, going through the hardest period of my life. My wife is leaving me because of mistakes from my past that I've worked hard to move beyond. If you've ever been judged for who you used to be instead of who you are now, you understand. There was no mention of Olivia, the unfinished divorce, the debt, the fake degree, or his employment history. Just mistakes. Someone asked what he had done. Ethan replied, things from a previous relationship that I'd rather not discuss publicly. Apparently, some people can't forgive and move forward. It was vague enough to make him look wounded without explaining what had actually happened. Mia called immediately. Tell me you're going to respond. No? Claire, he's making you look insane. My attorney told me not to fight him online. Then let me say something. Don't post details. He's counting on you staying quiet. Then let him. Why? Because screenshots don't disappear. That quieted her. A few mutual friends already knew enough to question Ethan's version. Some commented that there was more to the story. Ethan deleted those comments and changed the privacy settings on his posts. I saved the screenshots and sent them to my attorney. On the 7th day, Ethan stopped trying to control the story and started trying to control the money. My bank called shortly after 9 in the morning. The representative asked whether I'd authorized a transfer from our joint checking account. How much? The full available balance. There was roughly $8,000 in the account. Where was it going? To an individual account held by the other joint owner, Ethan. The bank had flagged the transaction because it came from an unfamiliar device. I drove to the branch during lunch and called my attorney from the parking lot. Can I move the money? Be careful with joint funds, she said. Don't hide or spend disputed money. Protecting it from being emptied is different from pretending it never existed. Keep records of everything. I documented Ethan's attempted transfer and moved the funds into a separate account where they couldn't disappear overnight. I didn't spend a cent. 2 hours later, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. Ethan was already shouting when I answered. You took the money? I secured the joint funds after you tried to transfer all of them. That was household money. You tried to move the entire balance into your personal account because I need somewhere to live. You have an income. My wages are being garnished. Another detail he had never told me. For the old debt? The debt you're so obsessed with judging me for. I'm not judging you for having debt. I'm judging you for hiding it. You left me with nothing. I haven't spent the money. It's documented, and the attorneys can deal with it. You always have an answer, don't you? I have records. His voice turned colder. I'm going to tell people what you're really like. What am I really like? Controlling, financially abusive. You investigate me, take my money, and throw me out when I'm vulnerable. A month earlier, those accusations might have terrified me. Now they sounded like preparation. Anything else? You think you're untouchable because you hired a lawyer. No, Ethan. I hired a lawyer because I stopped trusting you. I hung up. I wrote down the time and what had been said, then sent the notes to my attorney. The next morning, she called before I'd finished my coffee. We have a problem. What happened? Ethan filed an emergency motion. For what? Temporary spousal support and exclusive use of the house. The house I bought before I met him? The same house. What is he claiming? That you blindsided him with the separation, removed his access to marital funds, and left him without enough money to relocate. He tried to empty the account first. We have the bank record. He knew the relationship was ending. We have those messages too. And he may still be legally married to Olivia. That's something he'll have to explain. I leaned back. How much does he want? $3,000 a month in temporary support, plus exclusive use of the house while the case proceeds. 7 days earlier, Ethan had been begging me to save our marriage. Now he wanted me removed from my own house in order to support him. Can he get it? He can ask. That doesn't mean the judge will grant it. What happens now? We respond. Bring me the bank records, the messages, and everything you have concerning Olivia. When's the hearing? 1 week. After the call, I looked at the folder I had been building for more than a month. 4 weeks, I'd wondered whether preparing so carefully made me cold. Now Ethan wasn't trying to convince me anymore. I was trying to convince a judge. A week later, I walked into court with my attorney. Ethan was already there beside a legal aid attorney. When our case was called, his attorney argued that I had suddenly left the relationship and removed Ethan's access to joint funds, leaving him unable to secure housing. The judge reviewed the filing. He's requesting $3,000 per month in temporary support and exclusive use of the residence. Yes, Your Honour. My attorney stood. We dispute that characterization. She submitted the bank records showing that Ethan had attempted to transfer the full joint balance into his personal account before I moved the money for safekeeping. The judge turned to Ethan. Did you attempt to transfer the full balance? I was trying to protect myself. Did you initiate the transfer? Yes. My attorney then produced messages showing that Ethan knew the relationship was in serious trouble before the account incident. One of his messages read, "You can't punish me forever because I didn't tell you about Olivia." The judge looked up. Who is Olivia? Ethan shifted in his chair. My ex-wife. When was the divorce finalized? I hesitated. I don't remember the exact date. His attorney leaned toward him and whispered something. My attorney stood. Your Honour, we have been unable to locate a final divorce decree between Mr. Carter and Olivia Hayes. The courtroom went quiet. The judge addressed Ethan again. Were you legally divorced from Ms. Hayes before your ceremony with Ms. Bennett? I thought everything had been handled. Do you have a final divorce decree? No. My attorney submitted the certified marriage record between Ethan, then using the surname Mercer, and Olivia Hayes, along with current court records connected to unresolved obligations from that marriage. After reviewing them, the judge turned back to Ethan. Based on what I have today, your first marriage may still be legally active. Ethan swallowed. It's complicated. I understand there may be facts still to review, which is why I'm not deciding the validity of the marriage today. His attorney requested additional time to examine the records. The judge agreed, then turned to the house. My attorney explained that I had purchased it 2 years before meeting Ethan, that the deed and original mortgage were solely in my name, and that Ethan had contributed money to the down payment. His attorney argued that Ethan had lived there for years and contributed to household expenses. The judge acknowledged that, but found no basis to remove me from a house titled solely in my name during an emergency hearing. She denied Ethan's request for temporary support and exclusive use of the residence. The status of the first marriage needs to be resolved before this court can determine what marital rights may exist here. I expect complete documentation at the next hearing. Outside the courtroom, Ethan followed me into the hallway. Claire, I kept walking. Claire, stop. My attorney turned. Mr. Carter, you should communicate through counsel. I ignored her. You're destroying my life. I stopped. No, Ethan. I'm finding out what my life actually was. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of criminal now. I haven't told everyone anything. You brought all of that into court. You brought me into court. I made mistakes. Mistakes don't require 5 years of maintenance. You think you're perfect? No. Then stop acting like you are. This isn't about perfection. Then what is it about? Choice. He stared at me. You chose not to tell me about Olivia. You hid your debt, lied about your education, and rewrote what happened at your old jobs. Then you tried to move the joint money and told a judge I blindsided you. His voice dropped. You never loved me. That hurt because the opposite had been true. I loved the man you told me you were. His expression changed, but before he could answer, his attorney reached us. Ethan, enough. This isn't over, Ethan said. No, my attorney replied. It isn't. That's why you should stop talking. We walked away. The main hearing was scheduled for the following week. During those days, Ethan stopped calling. His family stayed away from my office and his social media went quiet. My attorney spent the week tracing the status of his first marriage. There was no final divorce decree, no judgment terminating the marriage, and no record showing Olivia had completed the process Ethan claimed she had handled. As far as the available court records showed, Ethan and Olivia were still legally married when he stood beside me and said his vows. 2 days before the hearing, I sat across from my attorney. So what does that mean for us? It may mean your marriage to Ethan was never legally valid. I had spent weeks preparing myself for divorce. I hadn't prepared myself to hear that I might never have been legally married at all. What happens to the last 3 years? Emotionally, nothing changes what you lived through. Legally, we ask the court to determine whether the marriage was valid before anything else. The morning of the hearing, Ethan arrived with a different attorney. His new lawyer argued that Ethan had contributed to our household for years and that I was using his private history to strip him of any claim to the life we had built. My attorney kept the response simple. The house had been mine before Ethan and I met. The original down payment came from my savings. The deed remained in my name, and the mortgage had always been paid from my personal account. My car had been purchased before the ceremony. Ethan's car was leased in his name. My retirement account predated the relationship. Then came the larger issue. My attorney placed the certified marriage record before the court. Before discussing marital property, we need a determination that a valid marriage existed. The judge turned to Ethan's attorney. Do you have evidence that Mr. Carter's marriage to Olivia Hayes ended before his ceremony with Ms. Bennett? His attorney checked his papers. No final decree, Your Honor. The judge addressed Ethan. Do you have one? No. You believed the divorce had been completed? Yes. But you never received a final judgment? No. The judge reviewed the certified records and the available court history. Ethan's attorney argued that he had believed in good faith that his first marriage was over and had lived with me as a husband for 3 years. The judge acknowledged the argument but returned to the same problem. Ethan had no document showing that his marriage to Olivia ended before our wedding. After reviewing the evidence, the judge ruled that Ethan had not been legally free to marry me when our ceremony took place. The marriage I had believed in for 3 years was annulled. The house remained mine because I had owned it before the relationship and Ethan had established no ownership interest in it. Our individual vehicles and debts remained with the appropriate owners and obligors. Ethan lowered his head and covered his mouth. For 3 years, I had called him my husband. Now the court had confirmed that legally, he never should have been. My attorney touched my arm as we gathered our things. You okay? I don't know yet. That was the truth. I had prepared myself to lose a husband. I hadn't expected to discover that the title itself had been built on a lie. Outside the courthouse, Diane and Vanessa were waiting. Diane came toward me first. You got what you wanted. I wanted an honest marriage. You ruined him. I didn't keep him married to Olivia. He didn't know. He knew enough to hide her from me for 5 years. Vanessa stepped forward. Do you have any idea what this is going to do to him? What did you think it would do to me? She had no answer. Ethan stood behind them. You're happy now? No, you won. This wasn't a competition. You get the house, you keep your money, I get nothing. You keep what belongs to you. I gave you 5 years, and I gave you 5 years of chances to tell me the truth. His jaw tightened. I loved you. I believed that he believed it, which somehow made it worse. You hid Olivia, your debts, your education, and what happened at your old jobs. I didn't know enough about your real life to decide whether I could accept it. I was ashamed. I could understand shame. I couldn't excuse what he had done with it. You could have told me that. I thought you'd leave. And now I'm leaving because you lied. Diane started crying. He has nowhere to go. He has family. Vanessa stared at me. You're really going to walk away after all this? Yes. My attorney and I headed toward the parking lot. I had almost reached my car when Ethan called after me. Claire. I turned. Was any of it real to you? That question hurt more than everything he had said inside the courtroom. All of it was real to me. He lowered his eyes. That was the problem. I got into my car and left. The first few days after the annulment were strangely quiet. Then mutual friends started contacting me. Some had heard Ethan's version. Others had heard about the annulment. I kept my explanation short. I was still legally married when we got married. I didn't know. Most people stopped asking after that. Then Ethan's employer learned about problems in his work history. I don't know who contacted them, and I never asked. Their own review found that some of the work trips Ethan had taken were unauthorized absences. He had missed work while claiming to be meeting clients. Within days, he lost his job. I hadn't contacted his employer or asked anyone to investigate him. The same pattern that destroyed our relationship had followed him into his career. About a week after the annulment, I received a message from Olivia Hayes. Hi, Claire. I heard of what happened. I'm sorry you got pulled into this. There was more. Ethan did something similar to me. He disappeared after our marriage fell apart and told me he would handle the divorce paperwork. He never did. I've been trying to serve him for almost 2 years, but his family wouldn't give me a reliable address. I read it twice. Ethan had told the court he thought Olivia handled the divorce. Olivia was saying Ethan told her the opposite. Her next message was direct. My attorney needs a current address for service. If you're comfortable providing one, it would finally let me finish this. I forwarded the message to my attorney before answering. Don't get personally involved beyond what's necessary, she told me. If you provide information, keep it factual. I gave Olivia the address where Ethan was staying with Diane. Nothing else. A few days later, Olivia sent another message. He was served this morning. For the first time since the letters began arriving at my house, Ethan's first marriage was finally moving toward an actual ending. Mine already had. The following Monday, another letter arrived. This one was addressed to me. A debt collector wanted to know whether I could be held responsible for obligations connected to Ethan's marriage to Olivia. I called my attorney immediately. They're testing whether there's any route to you, she said. Is there? Not based on what we've established, we'll answer formally. Her response explained that my marriage to Ethan had been annulled because he remained legally married to Olivia when our ceremony occurred. The debts connected to that first marriage were not mine. The collector backed off. I thought that would be the end of the financial mess. It wasn't. Ethan eventually filed for bankruptcy. I learned about it through mutual friends, but by then I had stopped trying to follow every consequence in his life. The friend group had already begun splitting apart. Some people initially believed Ethan's story that I had abandoned him because I couldn't accept his past. Once they learned what that past actually involved, most quietly stopped defending him. One woman I had known for years called me. Claire, I know Ethan lied, but don't you think he suffered enough? That isn't up to me. He lost his relationship and his job. I didn't fire him. But everything happened after you started investigating. If somebody discovers a fire because they smell smoke, they didn't start the fire. She went quiet. I just think people deserve second chances. So do I. Then why not Ethan? Because a second chance starts with telling the truth. He kept lying after I confronted him. We haven't spoken since. Mia never questioned my decision. One Friday evening, she came over with a takeout and found me surrounded by boxes. You're actually doing it. I nodded. The house was going on the market. You love this place. I used to. Then why let Ethan take it from you? I isn't. I taped another box shut. I don't want to spend the next 10 years remembering where I found that first letter every time I walk into the kitchen. I had bought the house 2 years before meeting Ethan. It had been mine first. But every room now carried a version of him. The living room where we had opened wedding gifts. The bedroom where I had slept beside someone whose history I didn't know. The office where I found the marriage record. Even the kitchen reminded me of Ethan tearing that first letter in half. I wanted somewhere that didn't feel like evidence. So I listed the house. While I waited for it to sell, I started therapy. I had resisted the idea because I was functioning. I went to work, paid my bills, and slept most nights. From the outside, I looked fine. Inside, I questioned every memory. During one session, I finally said what had been bothering me most. I feel stupid. Why? I work with records. I notice inconsistencies for a living. Somehow I lived with this man for 5 years and didn't notice my own life didn't add up. What should you have noticed? I tried to answer and couldn't. Hay was good at lying. Yes. That doesn't make me feel better. It may eventually. You trusted your partner. He deliberately gave you a version of himself designed to be trusted. That stayed with me. Ethan had changed his name, rewritten his education, reframed firings as career moves, and avoided every conversation that might have exposed Olivia. When documents threatened the story, he destroyed them before I could inspect them. I hadn't ignored one obvious truth. I had spent years maintaining a lie. Around the same time, Olivia asked whether I would speak with her by phone. I agreed. First, thank you for the address, she said. I know you didn't owe me anything. I'm glad you finally got him served. I'd been trying for almost 2 years. Ethan told the judge he thought you handled the divorce. She gave a humorless laugh. He told me he would handle it. Of course he did. Olivia explained that Ethan had lied about money during their marriage too. Whenever she caught one lie, he admitted only enough to explain that specific problem, then accused her of being suspicious. I knew the pattern. He disappeared when things got bad, she said. He promised he'd file the divorce paperwork. Later, I found out he hadn't. Why wouldn't his family give you his address? They said he needed a fresh start. That sounded like Diane. Did they know we were getting married? I don't know. By then, they'd stopped responding to me. I decided I didn't need to know exactly what Diane or Vanessa had understood when Ethan married me. Their knowledge couldn't change what had happened. Before we ended the call, Olivia said, I'm sorry, Claire. You don't owe me an apology. I know, I'm still sorry you ended up in it. So am I. She laughed softly. At least we're both getting out. Yeah. A few weeks later, Olivia's divorce became final. She sent me one message. Done, finally. I replied, good. That was our last conversation. I didn't need Olivia to become my friend. We were two women who had been handed different versions of the same man. Once the legal ties were gone, we had no reason to remain connected. Ethan's bankruptcy moved forward, and his employment search apparently became difficult because questions about his previous sales positions followed him. Diane was helping him financially. I stopped asking for details. The house closed the following month. On my last morning there, I stood alone in the empty living room. For years, I had imagined raising children in that house. Ethan and I had even discussed turning the spare room into a nursery someday. That future was gone. I walked through each room once, checked the windows, and left the keys for the new owner. Then I closed the door. My new place was a smaller condo 15 minutes from work. No spare bedroom. No backyard. No memories. The first night, I ate dinner sitting on the floor because my table hadn't arrived. The silence felt lonely at first. Then it started feeling peaceful. A week later, Mia convinced me to visit an animal shelter. I don't need a dog. I'm not saying you do. You've sent me 12 dog listings. Coincidence? It wasn't. I came home with Murphy, a 3-year-old rescue with oversized paws and absolutely no respect for personal space. The first night he climbed onto my bed and took over most of it. I let him. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. A few months after the annulment, my life had become almost boring. I mean that as a compliment. I woke up, walked Murphy, went to work, came home and made dinner. Some nights I met Mia or other friends. Other nights I stayed home. I wasn't dating. A friend offered to introduce me to someone from her office, and I declined. Not forever, I told her. Just not yet. I still struggled with trust, but I no longer spent every day trying to understand Ethan. That mattered. Vanessa made one final attempt to contact me through a new email address. Her message was long. She said Ethan was depressed, financially ruined, and struggling to find work. According to her, I could have shown more compassion after everything we had shared. Near the end, she wrote, "You walked away clean while he lost everything." I almost deleted it. Then I decided I wanted the boundary in writing. Ethan didn't lose everything because I left. His choices caught up with him. I won't be involved in rebuilding his life. Please don't contact me again. I sent it and blocked the address. There were no more messages. My parents handled everything differently. They never asked why I hadn't seen the signs earlier or suggested I should have forgiven Ethan. My dad helped me move into the condo and spent an entire Saturday assembling furniture while pretending he didn't hate instruction manuals. That evening, we ate pizza on the floor because the dining table was still in pieces. I glanced around the condo. You seem lighter. I think I am. You did what you had to do. Some people think I was cold. Were you? I spent 5 weeks getting everything in order before I finally handed him the papers. I protected my documents, secured my finances, and worked with an attorney while giving Ethan every chance to tell me the truth. That sounds careful. Sometimes I wonder if I should have given him one more chance to explain. Dad took another bite of pizza. How many chances did he already have? I didn't need to answer. Ethan had 5 years to tell me he had been married, and had months after the letters started arriving. I had the night I placed the marriage certificate on the kitchen counter. Every time, he chose the version of the truth that protected him. That was enough. I still had the wedding ring. For a while, it stayed in the back of a drawer because I didn't know what to do with something that represented a marriage that had felt real to me but had never been legally valid. Eventually, I sold it. There was no dramatic ceremony. I used part of the money to buy a better couch. Murphy immediately claimed one side of it. That felt appropriate. One Saturday morning, I took him to a park near the condo. Hal was completely focused on a squirrel he had no chance of catching when my phone buzzed. My body tensed automatically. For months, a call or a message had meant Ethan, his family, an attorney, or another problem. This time it was Mia. Coffee? I smiled. 20 minutes. Perfect. I put my phone away and watched Murphy continue his hopeless pursuit. That tiny moment told me more about my life than any speech could have. My phone could buzz without bringing another disaster. A letter could arrive without exposing another secret. My home could be quiet without making me wonder what someone was hiding. I never contacted Ethan's employer. I never exposed him online. I didn't chase his family or try to make his life worse. I found out the truth, protected myself, and left. The rest came from choices Ethan had made long before I knew enough to question them. Sometimes I still think about the sentence he threw at me that night. If you can't handle my past, maybe you're not woman enough for my present. Hal was right in a way he never intended. I couldn't handle his version of the past because none of it was real. Ethan spent 5 years hiding the truth because he was afraid it would cost him everything. In the end, hiding it did. Ethan was left with the consequences of his own choices, and I stopped carrying his lies into my future. Now I come home to a smaller condo, Murphy racing toward the door, and a life where I never have to wonder what someone is hiding from me. It isn't the future I once planned. It's better because it's mine. Ethan thought the truth would make me leave him. Hal was right. He just never imagined how much better my life would become once I did.